for joining us for one more episode in Meet the Life Coaches. Today, as usual, I'm always excited. Today, I'm especially excited to speak with Tammy. Tammy is one of our life coaches. She lives in Southern Florida, and she is waiting to join us today to talk about, do a little bit of deep dive into who she is, what she does, and why she does what she does. So I'm excited to talk about Tammy. But before I get to Tammy, I just want to remind you guys, not to remind you, to find out from you guys, have you purchased your copy? I'm having a glare, but I think you can see it. Have you purchased your copy of my book, A Long Walk, Journey to Self by Nicolene Bernard? Yes. And there's a message here that says one set of footprints in the sand. That's a whole story about that. I'll get to that in another episode. But please, if you have not yet, go on out to Amazon and purchase a copy of my first book, A Long Walk, Journey to Self, where you will learn so much about who I am and why I do what I do. And also a copy of our journal. It's a Journey to Self. It's called Journey to Self, a personal growth journal. This is one of the most important tools you'll have in your healing or in your nakedness or in you getting to know yourself. We have some really good, deep, soul-searching questions in it. It has 370 pages. Every page has an inspiring, I can't even talk today, an inspiring quote at the top. We have lots of questions in there, and journaling is one of the most important things you could ever do in finding and knowing and learning yourself. So please, if you have not yet gone out to Amazon, it's easiest for you to find it by going to our website, which is www.speakwithlove.info, and click on the link there. It'll take you right to our book and to the journal. And so, as usual, you know I like to talk a lot, so I will stop here. And when I come back, I will be joined by the lovely, wonderful, talented Tammy. So stay tuned. Thank you, guys. Hey, Tammy, how are you?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm happy that we're able to get together today because the last time was a disaster.
That happens. Welcome to the modern technology.
I know, right? How's your family doing?
Good. Very good. Busy. Everybody's busy. Southwest Florida makes life hard for my contractor's son, and my younger two are actually going to school. So all's good. Thanks.
Oh, that's lovely. That's great. What's the weather like down there? We had wonderful weather earlier this week. We had, I think one day was like 78.
Wow.
So we were out in shorts and thinking it's summer, but I already know what it's like in Georgia. So I was like, I know it's coming. So of course we've had rain since then, and it's not really cold, but it's dropped a little bit. So
it's 90 here.
What? And is that a 90, like your happy 90, or it's not a...
No, I love it. I love it.
I am jealous. I wish I was in a place where that was weather all year round, but who knows? So, happy we could talk today. And I know a lot of folks have been, on the website, they've read about the different coaches that we have. And today is your opportunity to tell us a little bit more. We'll do a little bit of deep dive so that once clients join the Naked Challenge, they have an idea of who you are, what you do, and what they'll be getting when they sign up with you.
Cool.
So do you want to talk a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'll try to be as brief as possible, but I'm a talker, so I'll do the best that I can.
No, we love talking. It's okay. You can take your time.
You say that now.
You like.
So I was born in Chicago. I moved to Southwest Florida, where I'm at right now, and I grew up in Southwest Florida. Then when I graduated high school, I went to Wisconsin, and I lived in Wisconsin for 30 years. I raised 3 wonderful little boys. They're not little anymore. All of them are very large. I have a 25-year-old, a 22-year-old, and a 21-year-old. 2 are going to school. 1 is a roofing salesman. He's doing great. In the meantime, what I did was I went to University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, and I got my psychology degree. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to do research on addiction. And so I briefly, I'll tell you, but we would addict rats to cocaine, and then we would study their neurotransmitters and stuff like that. And we studied a drug called naltrexone, which is used nowadays for women who deliver babies and whatnot. And so the research that we did was foundational for some long-term growth. So then I got pregnant, I got married and get pregnant, and I moved to way north Wisconsin, like suburb of the North Pole, Wisconsin, north, cold, so cold, so very cold. And then I finished my master's and my doctorate, and my master's is in marriage and family, and my doctorate is in psychology. And I did both my master's and my doctorate while raising my children. And so I had worked for a Native American tribe for many years. Got lots of really cool experiences, learned a lot about addiction and working with populations that maybe are underserved a little bit. And so I did that. It was very rural and very, again, small town, very cold, a lot of racism. So we were trying to overcome a lot of barriers. And so then I worked with a lot of children during that time. And so I worked in the schools. And then I ended up becoming the behavioral health director, which was a very cool experience for me. And we wrote programming to do a mental health and addiction program within the tribe for the state of Wisconsin. It's a very cool program. We grew things, we got grants, we did all kinds of stuff. But most importantly, what I got out of that was a lot of exposure to things that I wasn't used to. I was raised in South Florida, so I wasn't used to I didn't experience here racism, so I didn't know what that was. And then I got to Wisconsin, and then I was like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. And so we tried to overcome barriers and work with these children on growth and, you know, what they have to come against and all these things. And it was really very eye-opening for me. I was very naive, and I'll admit that. And they taught me a lot of really cool things. To this day, many of them will still reach out to me. Miss Tammy, what about this? Hey, Miss Tammy, what about this? Or, you know, it's, 10 years or whatever later. So after that, COVID hit, and I moved back home, which is here in Southwest Florida. And my youngest was a COVID graduate, so he came with us and graduated at the pool on his computer, which was a really funny thing for us. Since then, I have decided that what I'm going to do, and I have been doing some life coaching. And what I've been doing with that is helping a lot of people overcome barriers that they identify. In counseling, we spend a lot of time talking about mental health, and we talk about these things that prohibit and label people. And I'm not discounting that at all, because I think that's a legit thing. But with coaching, what we do is a person says, I'm struggling in this. And we work through those barriers. We find the things that maybe are prohibiting them. Sometimes very simple. Sometimes it's just our internal thoughts. Sometimes it's very like, did you know that you just said that out loud? Do you do that often? I do. Okay. And so we do what's called cognitive behavioral therapy, which is thinking, feeling, acting. How you think affects how you feel, and ultimately how you act. And so it's very basic. And so I have clients that maybe I have 4 or 5 times and they're good. We've had people progress and get promotions. We've had kids be able to go to school who were afraid to go to school. We've had kids who were being bullied. We've had couples who have learned to communicate better. All of those things have happened since I've moved back down here. And that's all come from coaching. It's not come from the mental health work. So I kind of have both sides going here. I have all of my training in mental health, but then I've, in the last 3 years, I've spent a lot of time coaching and helping people overcome these barriers. So again, very shortly, not really. That's kind of what I've been doing the last few years.
That's wonderful. I could listen to you go on forever. But that's great. You've had a lot of experience, and I love that you've seen both sides of it. And I was talking with Dave last week. I'm not sure if you saw our interview, but we talked about the importance. Some folks, they do need both. They need to have a therapist that's going to actually help them to identify what those things are. Mm-hmm. And then after they identify them, then that's where they need a life coach to help them to work beyond whatever that impediment is. So I feel like life coaching has changed my life. I know that I've made a lot of changes since I got a coach. I never had a therapist, but there are different ways to, get to your core and get naked, like we like to say, let's speak with love. And that's what one of the things that the program does. It helps folks to get naked and to identify those things. And then the next step would be to work with one of our awesome coaches on the team, like yourself. So great. I love that you have so much experience. You have such a wide knowledge, and you've had so many variations. But what led you to this career path? Like, have you always known that what I wanted to work in mental health, or what prompted you to go that route?
It's a really good question, and it's part of a journey that I took. So I grew up in a very toxic environment, lots of abuse. My mom was an alcoholic, and she has mental health, and I didn't realize that growing up. And actually what I was going to do, because I was going to conquer the world, because that's what 18-year-olds do. And I was going to take over Tom Brokaw's job. And I was going to be a journalist, but I wasn't going to take over Barbara Walters. I was going over Barbara Walters, and I was going to take over Tom Brokaw. And so what happened was when I went to school in Milwaukee, I met a woman walking to the dorms, and she said, we have this program. Do you know anybody who's addicted? And I was like, yes, my mom. And so she said, would you like to attend an adult Children of Alcoholics meeting? And I thought, I don't even know what that means, but sure. I don't know. I'm really open. I'm a college student. I don't know. And I went, and I thought, oh, now I get it. Now I see. And at the time I was taking psychology classes and started to really understand human behavior. Didn't quite understand it the way I do now, but at the time it opened my eyes, and I thought, oh, and I felt very drawn to helping. And I'm an empath, and I help. That's just what I do. If you need help, I'll drive wherever needs to do to help. I'm just a helper. Sometimes to my own fault, but I felt very drawn to that. And then I started meeting people like me that had that same passion. And then it fueled from there. And it has been in church groups. And I just find that people we'll go out, and I'll be sitting next to someone, and all of a sudden I'm like, hi, how are you? And we're just talking as you're sitting next to somebody, and they start telling me their life story. And I was like, how do you keep getting people to tell you that? I'm like, I don't know. I just do. And so I feel like it's kind of, this is how it's supposed to be. Things work out the way they're supposed to. And even when things are bad and you're low and you think this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing, if you just wait a little bit, it manifests itself. It shows you, and it presents what you're supposed to do. So no, I didn't always want to do this. I was going to be Tom Brokaw. But now that I am this, I'm very happy. This was a way better turn for me in so many ways.
I agree. The world needed a Tammy Bergum, not a Tom Brokaw. So
they had a Tom Brokaw.
Right. Isn't it lovely how, like you say, life it tells us and leads us where we need to be. I have a similar experience. I think we're similar in that sense, where I find folks that I've never met before, for some reason, we'll be sitting and we just say hello or smile at each other. And the next thing you know, they've told me their entire life story. Right. And a lot of times they don't necessarily need advice. They just need someone who's going to listen to them.
I agree.
And sometimes during that conversation, they have such realization. They're like, having said it out loud, they're realizing for themselves that, oh my gosh, this is what it is, or even what they need to do. So we're
We
placed
talk a
here.
lot about that. We talk about validation. Some people just want to be validated. They want to know that I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
Is that normal? Yeah, it's your feelings. Of course it's normal. If that's what you feel, it's normal for you.
It's
It's
normal
not for me to tell you you're crazy.
and that's your truth. And just finding your people too. I found that one of the problems I had when I went back years ago when I was dealing with domestic violence, and I had that shame. For some reason, I thought it was just me. And the moment I realized that there are other folks who are experiencing these things and they're having the same difficulties I'm having, I felt like I wasn't just such a broken person. Like there are other folks experiencing this. So it's not necessarily that I'm stupid. It's just I have a problem I need to get past. So just sometimes finding out that you're not alone.
I think you're right. 100% correct.
Yep. You're not alone. Well, that's good. I'm so excited. I know we've talked before. I felt like we've talked in depth a little bit, but we've really gone deep today because a lot of this I did not know. So what does your day-to-day look like? Do you have clients daily? Is this something that you do on a full-time basis?
No, I haven't been. I do it as needed. Most of my stuff is referral. When I first moved here, I had worked in a restaurant for something fun to do. I wanted my brain just to kind of, shut down on hardcore mental health for a while. So I was working in a restaurant, and of course people like, you're a what? You're a who? What do you do? And so I started telling people eventually I was a kindergarten teacher. But what was happening is I just get referrals. And so I do it as needed. I don't spend, I haven't, because it's as people need it. I feel when a person is drawn to me, that's my focus. And if I'm focused, if there's all of these other things that are distracting me, that's not my focus. And I feel like you deserve, if you and I are talking, you deserve 110% of me. And so I do it as needed. Again, I don't have anybody that I've had for very long term, because most people we're able to figure it out pretty quickly. People are very smart, and people know. They know right from wrong. They know what they're supposed to be doing, but they just need someone to say, okay, and kind of help them, again, validate them. Yeah, that's right. Or that seems legit, and just kind of helping them forecast and navigate. I always say, I'm not going to walk behind you, and I'm not going to walk in front of you. I'm just going to walk beside you, and I'm going to put my hand here, because if you fall, I got you. But it's your walk. It's not mine. It's your path. And so I took my own, and you took your own, and we, everyone, I'm not taking your path. It's your path, but I got you. Let's go together.
Exactly. That's wonderful. And just reminding folks that they have everything they need within them. I like to say that a lot. They have everything they need within them to get past that impediment or make the change that they believe that they do need. They just need a little boost sometimes. A cheerleader on the side telling them you can do it. So
I agree.
It's a great thing. People just sometimes need that reminder.
And you feel alone. I mean, how often do people feel like you had just said, I thought I was the only one? And when you hear it and say it and you realize you're not alone, you're empowered to, okay, this was a moment or situation or a time in my life or a chapter in my life that I'm not proud of, was really hard. It hurts, and it hurts still. But I can keep going. I can, and when you feel like you have support, that is very empowering.
It is. It's very empowering having that support. And that's what we want to do here at Speak with Love, just to help people identify whatever these roadblocks are, work with them, remind them that they have what they need inside of them to get past it and to improve, heal, and live a better life. And, just be there to support them along the journey. Some of them have already started and some of them are just about to start. But going back to one thing you said, that is why, for me, I always talk about how important it is to share your story, because just sharing that story, you just never know who's out there, who's listening, who can relate to you, and just you being able to tell them that I've been there, I've done that, and there's hope beyond where you are now is great. It's like And to tell folks like, okay, I'm here now, but I can be there if I just, identify this thing and work on it. So sharing is wonderful. It's powerful. I love the story you talk about going to that class of children of addicted parents, and it finally opening your eyes to understanding the reason why some things happened. It explains some of your experiences and maybe validated some of the feelings that you had because there were others like you and they felt the same.
Well, and for me, it for the first time helped me understand. I didn't know. I didn't realize. I thought everybody's family not necessarily was as bad as mine or one way or another. I didn't really pay much attention because I knew other people that I went to school with, their families weren't the same as mine. But it also helped me think, okay, because in my mind, I thought, I guess that's how parents are. And, am I going to be that kind of person? And I always said, I'm not going to have kids. I'm not going to do all that because my experience was so bad with my mother. But it allowed me to understand, one, her, and two, her addiction, but three, also who I am and how much control I have to stop things and to grow and to be a different person and to understand how much control I have in my own life. I'm not her. I'm an extension of her, but I'm not automatically going to be an alcoholic. I'm not automatically going to be a user. I'm not all of those things. I'm not the things that would come out of her and my stepdad's mouths. I'm not those things. Because you start to believe them, because your internal voice tells you over and over again, you will be nothing, you will be nothing. And that becomes the language we hear in our head. And so when somebody said that's not true, for the first time I thought, right, it's not true. It really isn't. And it validated that you're going to be okay. It'll be okay. And that was the first time. So I was 19 years old, 18, 19 years old. And then from then I was like, okay, bring it on.
Right. Did that change your relationship with your parents?
No, my mom and I still have a very tumultuous, we don't talk. She chooses her addiction and that's her choice. When she has been given the tools and presented with opportunities and continues to choose her addiction, I have to be able to separate how that affects me. And thus my children, when my children were young, I got to choose as the second generation of this, what I was going to expose them to or not expose them to. And so, no, we don't talk even to this day. We talked on and off in between there. I mean, it's not like since I was 18 to now we haven't talked. We've talked on and off, but not on a regular. Mm-mm.
And I'm glad you say that because I've talked to so many folks who have such a difficult time with their parent relationship, because I do believe that a lot of our issues per se start in childhood and what we're taught in childhood. But it's beautiful that you were able to recognize and make a choice what was best for you, because a lot of adults I know have this guilt about what their duties should be toward their parents or their obligations to their parents. But for you to reach the point where you can make that decision and choose what's best for you, like you're looking out for Tammy now and not based on society rules or what's expected, you're making the best choice for yourself. And I'm talking to so many people, especially women that have this problem of relationships with their mother too, and that defines what kind of wives they are, what kind of individuals they are, what kind of parents they are, because they can't get past the fact that they have to choose themselves and not let their parents' problem be theirs. One thing I've learned too is being able to forgive your parents for what they've done, because sometimes they're doing the best that they can, but still having forgiven them, not to forget, but not let it be your path. So that was very difficult for me. And I was angry at my dad, especially for so many years. But the moment I realized that he had his own issues that led him down the path that he was on, and at the time he didn't know any better and he was doing the best he could, that kind of released me from all the rage and the anger I had toward him. And I had to, like you said, he made his choices and that's his life. And now I had to make mine and live my life. So I do commend you for making that decision and doing what was best for you. and your family. And a lot of people need that permission to do that. So I have a lot of clients that I've had that conversation with. It's almost they're asking for permission that it's okay for me to choose me, because they weren't
my children.
Choose you or choose your children. Yeah. Break that chain, that generational chain. So at some point, once you get to the core of you and you start thinking about yourself, that's where it breaks. And you're a better person for yourself and your community. So I enjoy your story. I love what you've done. You seem very passionate about what you do, and really authentic too, because you're not in this for the wrong reasons. You're in it definitely to help folks who need it the most. I'm hoping that what we're doing with this Naked Challenge program and the resources that we're providing and the help that we're offering to people will change a lot of lives, and most importantly, remove this stigma that's associated with people who either have mental health issues or sometimes making decisions that we don't necessarily think are the right, to be empathic about what people are going through, and instead of judging, just doing what we can to help.
I agree. And what I find myself saying with coaching is, you go to your best friend and you lay it all out there. And I always say, throw it up. You throw it out to your best friend. And that's okay, because you trust that person. How are we any different? I'm not judging you. Your best friend isn't judging you. We're not judging. We're helping you. Your best friend is here to help you. I'm here to help you. I'm also here to lay it out for you. Like, okay, that makes sense. Let's do this, just like a best friend. So why do you have stigma over what you're already doing? You're already doing it with your best friend. But the difference is your best friend has a little bit of biasy. I don't have that biasy. So I'm here to say it. Let's get through some of the gunk. And, when you say it out loud and you hear it, and then now you say, it's not so bad, is it? You heard it in your head. Or they'll get upset and start crying. And I'll say, guess what? The world didn't open and swallow you up. It's okay. When you hear yourself say your story, and as much as you've put it in your head and you've twisted it around and it sounds so nasty and gross, but then you say it, it's okay. And that's what you would do to a best friend. Secrets, non-secrets, like, oh, I messed up on this one. That's what we're here to do. We're here to coach you through this moment, but you can do it. You got it. You'll be fine. We'll get you through it. And so that's what I like about what we do. And I do get upset about the stigma of mental health, because people have no problem going to a doctor, but why is it when it comes to our thinking patterns and the way we behave, the labeling becomes so intrusive and gross and nasty that people are afraid to do it because they don't want to appear vulnerable. But yet we give them drugs and alcohol to numb them so they become vulnerable. So let's try to avoid some of that stuff and just get through it. I always say, sit in it and feel. And I tap. I do a tapping thing, which allows people to fully feel who they are and what they do. And sometimes that's scary too. People have a hard time with that. And then they're like, that was great. I know, I'm not going to hurt you. That's
right?
What we do.
Exactly. That's what we're here for, to help you. We're on your side. I
Right,
like to say,
right.
So we want the best for you. And I'm glad you said. So tell me a little bit, what's the process is like for you? Like, what can someone expect if they choose to be their coach? What's the process like during your daily sessions, or do you give assignments? How do you help them to get past these impediments or identify them if they haven't?
Good question. I love that, actually. So how I do my program is never a cookie cutter. So each person comes to me and they'll say, this is what's going on. I'm like, in your words, tell me what, why are you seeking counseling, or in this case, coaching? What can we do? I want a job promotion. Okay. So then I hear their story. And in there, I just write. I take tons of notes. And so I listen for things, because the more you catharticize and the more you get it out, the better. And so then while you're doing it, I'm paying attention. I'm paying attention to what we call thinking errors, which are cognitive distortions. I'm paying attention to patterns of thought. I'm paying attention to negative things that you say about yourself, those self-defeating behaviors. And then I say, okay, so let me tell you what I've noticed. And then we can talk about it. You say that every single time you go to your boss, he doesn't want to talk to you. That's considered a thinking error. So we say, every single time? Well, no, not every time. Okay, so we learn how to change wording. We learn how to change thinking patterns. And yes, I give homework. I give homework as needed, something I'm very passionate about and something that I know that you are too, because we all got one, is a journal. I think journaling is one of the most important and highly underused tool in a toolbox. I feel like I journal every day. I tap every day. I meditate every day because I have to become good with me. But there's feelings within myself like, why am I so jittery today? I haven't had any coffee. Oh, I have to understand and I have to identify that. And sometimes that comes out in journaling. So I always say to people, journal, and then even if it's a great day, and then go back in a week and look, and you can start to see your patterns. You can start to see your thinking. You can start to see some of the way you behave, the way you've communicated and those things. And then we build on that. So tell me what you saw. Tell me what you've noticed. And it's your session. So I want you to understand. I could tell you all that this is what I see, this is what I think, this is what I need, and you have to do this. There's no, self-satisfaction that you could say, well, Tammy said I had to do that. So when you don't do it, there's no buy-in. When you do it and you understand it, and it's an epiphany, and you say, now I see. Like the first time I went to that class, now I see. Nobody told me I had to do anything. They presented me with the information, and then I discovered it on my own. That's the stuff that we do. And then, okay, now we're going to build on this. Now, what do you see? Now, what do you want? And now people are like, well, now I can do this. Right. We can do this. What's next? Let's go. And so those are the stuff that we do. It's client-led. It's always client-led. It's always by what you think, and you get on today and you say, I'm really not in the mood. Okay, that's fine. Let's talk about just your week in general, or I have a lot to tell you this week. Okay, it's up to you. It's your session. It's your time to spend. You're asking for this help, and like I said, 110%, I'm going to dedicate it to you. So the homework varies. Sometimes we do it right on the spot. We do research. I'll look up articles. I'll send them to the people. Now I need you to read this. And once you read it, I want you to tell me what you read. I want you to tell me how that affects you, and those kinds of things. I always push for higher, deeper level of self-exploration. It can be very surfacey, but that's not what you want. You want someone to push you and let's go. You want someone to get naked. Let's get naked. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's get all the way vulnerable. And then we're going to build up from there. So I can't tell you that every single day, it's every single client, it's this way, because it varies on what that person's got going on that day.
Yeah, we're all unique individuals, so it's best if it has to be different for everyone. So I love that answer. Now, what do you do when you need? Do you have a coach? Is there someone to go to for guidance?
I do. I have several. So the one good thing about my profession is when I was a therapist, we do what's called collaboration. And so there's a group of fellow therapists or psychologists, and you sit around and you talk about your cases, and they'll say, "Oh, girl, you were too close," or "Ooh, push back," or, call you out on your boundaries, or "I need to process this." So I have maintained relationships with people, and I'll be like, "I got to process," or "Am I overreacting?" Or I feel not about my clients, just about my own life. Right. And I have a very good friend. She's a detox specialist that we do a lot of work together. And I'm like, okay, this happened today. I might have overreacted. What do you think about this? She'll say, no, that sounds good. And she does her own thing, and she does her tapping and stuff. So I am not above any sort of help. Like if I will say, today is not a good day for me, or wow, that thinking pattern will seep back from my childhood. And I'll say, okay, now, but I'm a lot more cognizant on, okay, I'm angry about that. Why? What trigger? I'm a lot better about that. And I'll say, that triggered me. I need to explore that a little bit. So I have those patterns of my own life that I'm able to explore. The older I get, the better I am at knowing my triggers and knowing how to process through them and knowing how to get through them. But there are days that all of a sudden a nightmare or a song or something, the loss that I've had experienced in my life will trigger something. I'm like, whoa, that came out of nowhere. I don't even know where that came from. I actually had a client the other day who just said, I get triggered by something and I have no idea what triggered it. And
Yes.
so I was like, okay, let's talk. And what about this? And she's like, I don't know. And she had to pull over. She was having a panic attack. And she's like, had to pull over. She was, I don't even know. And so we kind of processed through. It's okay. It happens. It happens to all of us. And so, not necessarily panic attacks, but the fact that we all need, myself included, life is hard.
Exactly. And that's a beautiful answer. And that's why I asked that questions, because people need to understand that there's nothing wrong with you per se. Like, we all have these things, we all have these tricks, we all have these ambushes, because sometimes you're like, I'm healed, I've moved on from that, and then something happens that brings you right back. And it will be normal, but it's great for you to have a resource, or to have that place, or that person that you can go to who's going to be honest with you and help you to get through it. So no stigma necessary. There's nothing wrong with it. We're all going through life,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all going to be okay.
Yeah, it will be. And it is. It always is.
It always is.
What's meant to be will be. It always is.
It always is. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited because I believe so much in what we're doing. And because I believe I have one of the greatest teams ever, because everyone's so different, but we all have the same goal. We all want the same thing. And I can't wait for us to help the viewers. So for those who are watching, I know once they make a choice to go with Tammy, they'll be in great hands. You have lots of experience. And most of all, you're very passionate about what you do. So I'm excited. I'm very happy we had a chance to talk today. I've learned so much more about you now. Like my client, like our viewers are learning the same time with you.
Yeah.
I'm happy for that. And we'll be waiting.
I'll be here. I'm ready.
Thank you so much, Tammy. Thank you for taking the time to talk with me today. Have
Thank
a
you.
wonderful weekend, and we'll catch up soon.
Sounds good. Thank you. Have a good day.
All right. Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.
Wasn't that amazing? It's always a pleasure to speak with our coaches. And that was a really good conversation. I hope you found value in it. I hope you could relate to the conversation I just had with Tammy. Tammy, thank you so much for joining us. And please come back next week for another episode where you'll be meeting another one of our coaches. You'll be meeting Crystal for another great story and great conversation. So thank you guys once more for watching. And remember, speak with love always.